Hi, this is James Ferrell with the Ferrell Maritime and Mesothelioma Law Group. I want to talk to you a little bit about mesothelioma's presentation, diagnosis, and treatment. Mesothelioma is a very rare cancer. It's only diagnosed about 3,000 times annually in the United States. Now, obviously, if you're the one afflicted with mesothelioma, it's not rare to you. So it's a very unfortunate disease. Mesothelioma is only caused by asbestos exposure, and the only way that occurs is by breathing what the pulmonologist and the industrial hygienist call respirable fibers. So you have to cut or disturb asbestos and breathe it in through your lungs or your mouth in order to develop mesothelioma. You could actually take, I don't recommend this, you could actually take asbestos and dump it in wet water and drink it, and it wouldn't harm you. So it has to be actually breathed. Only a biopsy, and this is very, very important because there's some confusion, only a biopsy can determine whether or not you have mesothelioma. And what normally happens upon presentation with my clients is they're feeling persistent month-long flu symptoms. They have having trouble breathing, they have tightness in their chest, they're having trouble sleeping, and in many cases they have an unexplained, not necessarily unwanted, but an unexplained weight loss. So what happens is, in general, the client will present to their treating physician. Their treating physician in many cases will initially diagnose the flu. Sometimes there's what's called a pleural effusion, which simply means there's fluid on the lungs. At some point, the flu does not resolve, and then the client is usually referred, not always, but usually referred to a pulmonologist. And a pulmonologist is a lung doctor. They specialize in treatment of lung diseases. In that case, the pulmonologist usually takes a series of x-rays. Sometimes they will do a scan of the lungs to see what's wrong with the lungs and what needs to be done. In many cases, the pulmonologist will then see a mass. It's impossible at that time to tell whether it's a malignant or cancerous mass or it's a benign mass. But the pulmonologist will see a mass in the linings of the lungs that is suspicious for mesothelioma, and sometimes he'll see a tumor in the lungs itself, which may be suspicious for lung cancer. And I have another video talking about asbestos-related lung cancer. But at that time, the pulmonologist then will refer you for a biopsy. And that is done by putting the patient usually in the hospital. Sometimes it's a day procedure, and they take a sample of the tissue. They either cut the chest open and take a sample, or they take a needle and extract some of the tissue. At that point, the tissue is sent to be examined by a doctor to see what type of cancer it may be. Now, this type of doctor is called a pathologist. It would be very, very unusual if you ever laid eyes on your pathologist. He'll work in a lab. He may work at the hospital in a lab. He may have a lab of his own. But he will take a tissue sample and then he'll send it off, he'll do it in-house or send it to be examined. If there's a dispute in their diagnosis of lung cancer and mesothelioma can be very close. Sometimes they'll send it to a mesothelioma hospital with experts such as the MD Anderson in Houston or the Mayo Clinic if it's a close call, and have a doctor that specializes in mesothelioma confirm the diagnosis. For those of you that have been afflicted by mesothelioma, the treatment pattern is very similar to lung cancer. If caught early enough, doctors will try to cut out as much of the tissue they can through a surgical procedure. Then also there may be radiation prescribed or chemotherapy. At that point, or right after diagnosis, there's also what people call their cancer doctor, and that's their oncologist, will be prescribing whether or not they'll be working with the surgeon to determine whether surgery is better or some combination of surgery, chemotherapy, or other treatments will best affect the result for the patient. If you are, I have another video just talking about mesothelioma and remedies. If you are afflicted, there are compensation funds available for you. There are bankruptcy trusts where money has been set aside. There's also a possibility of a civil lawsuit against those people who made the products that you might have been exposed to that are still in business. So if you have been exposed and you believe you have mesothelioma, you should consult an experienced attorney that's had decades of experience in litigating these claims. Thank you from the Ferrell, Maritime, and Mesothelioma Law Group for watching this video, and please call us if you have any questions.